Welcome to Don't F With Your People. This is my second of two episodes here on Labor Day, two for Labor Day. Like I said on my first one, I've been gone for a minute. I've been busy doing some consulting work with an organization that's been a lot of fun. I've learned an awful lot. It's a company, two companies that are out of my sweet spot, not banking, not fintech, nothing related to that. It's an industry that I really didn't have a lot of knowledge of, an industry that all of us have, if you own a house, you've dealt in this industry before. But I've learned a lot working with them day in and day out. And but it's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, and just didn't get and make the time to put the content out there. And for that, I apologize because I owe you something. And I've read recently or watched recently about if you're going to have a successful YouTube channel, you have to treat it like a relationship. And if I'm going to have a good relationship with you, I have to continue to put content out there that you can count on consistently being there for you. And for that, I've failed for the last couple months. So I'm sorry, and I'll do better. And that's accountability. I'll try to be more accountable for you guys. Got the chance this morning to go do an exercise class with my wife and my daughter, my oldest daughter. And I got my butt kicked, to be honest. I lift 4 days a week, ride a Peloton, and I went to this group exercise class. I was the only dude there, and we were using light weights and bars, and I just got throttled. There's a saying in working out that you can push a muscle to failure. I did that to just pretty much every muscle group I had. The instructor pushed us to do these exercises with each muscle group, and here I had 12 and a half pounders in my hands, and there was a point where I just simply could no longer put it above my head. And that felt awesome when the rest of the crowd was continuing to go on. Humbling but fun. Just got my butt kicked. Anyway, that takes me to the afterwards. Had breakfast with my daughter and wife and grandson, and as we were sitting there talking to my daughter about it, she's doing work on her presentation skills, and that got me thinking about how to best prepare for your speeches and presentations. And I shared with her that the only way I really ever truly got good at presenting was to practice until I had the content memorized. And that sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but that is the way I had to do it. I wasn't good enough of a natural speaker. I had anxiety naturally built into my personality. I had to know the content inside and out to where the slides that would be on the screen were simply a cue to talk about something that I knew cold. I knew it down by heart. And early on in my career, that meant knowing my speech word by word. And those were typically like a speech of 20 minutes exactly. And I would practice that speech so many times before I would get up in a crowd at national conference for Fiserv's national conference, and crowds that started at a couple hundred people and eventually got to a few thousand people. It was nerve-wracking as all get out, and there was no way I could have made it through it if I didn't have it memorized. But it got to be where I knew the bullet point on the slide would prompt me to say the next 50 words or whatever it was. That led me to the topic of today's episode, which is basically, I don't know where it came from. It's a saying that I thought was fantastic, which was, you play the way you practice, so practice hard. And you can apply that any way you want. In fact, you could say, you play the way you practice, so practice like you mean it. And I think in business, oftentimes, teams, companies, whatever, will tend to kind of go through the motions, whether it's a DR test or a conversion to a new system, or just pick it, or the launch of a project. They kind of go through the motions, but they don't really go through the full process fully, all in. And therefore they end up failing and kind of struggle with why did that happen? And the reality is, if you don't really go through it, we used to do bank conversions, and we would go through the testing multiple times and review the files beginning to end, and we do it again, and we go through it all over and over again, and all the files had to not only balance down to the penny, but so we could account for every dollar that was being converted for those banks. But we would look at every single account that we could, and you couldn't look at everyone, but you had to look at all kinds of different accounts and, verify it. But we practiced. We went through it over and over and over again. DR test, you could rubber stamp the DR test if you wanted to, but if you really wanted to know if you truly were ready for a disaster recovery, sorry, I used an acronym there, disaster recovery was ready for your business, you really had to fail over and run at that site or in that environment for a little bit of time to prove that system was going to work, and then come back and make sure that it worked when you return to the production system. Most businesses don't do that. They maybe send a copy of the files to that other site, they run a little bit of practice over there, and they said, oh, good enough, we know we can run over there. But the reality is that's hardly the real world over there. So with that said, I just kind of wanted to reiterate that, like, if you really want to be prepared for whatever it is you're getting teed up for, practice like you mean it and practice hard. I think if you look at the teams that are truly excellent, and pick a sport, football teams that don't practice tackle in practice typically don't tackle very well. You can't just practice in the games or tackle in the games and show up on Sundays or Saturdays, depending upon what level you're at. It's not going to be good. It's not going to look good. And you'll see the teams that actually tackle each other in practice all day, every day, or at least some amount of time, are ready for the real thing when it happens. It's just the reality of it. And it might hurt, and some players might get injured, but that's the only way that you can actually get prepared. So don't go through life half-assing it. Practice like you mean it. Practice hard while you're doing it. And the last thing I'll say, actually, real life scenario. My insurance company, I'm not going to name names, upgraded to a new system 5 or 6 months ago, and they're still trying to get that system to work. Well, recently I was just tired of it. I had been getting inconsistent amounts that I needed to pay. What I get on the paper notice and what I would see on the screen didn't match. There was the old system out there had a billing amount, but you had to pay it in this system, and those two amounts didn't match. And then when I finally went in to pay, the system was down. And so 6 o'clock in the morning, I had, couldn't pay it when I had time to do it, and I had to remember to do it again later. I was just pissed. So typed in a note, nasty note, probably not proud of myself. And I just hey, did you guys even test this system? And if you need help, call me. This is something I did in my career. I would gladly help you, figure out how to be ready for this kind of a system upgrade. And, I just kind of shared my frustration. I wasn't really mean, but I was like, seriously, this is ridiculous. This has been going on forever. Well, to my insurance company's credit, the senior vice president and CFO wrote me a note back, apologized for all this, and pointed out that, it had gone really bad. They created a SWAT team. They were trying to work through all the issues, that their partner had kind of let them down with the system and so forth. But they're doing their best to get back on track, which I will give them credit. Most of the time, that senior vice president and CFO is going to hand that responsibility, that email off to the junior woodchuck and not write that email herself. And she didn't pawn it off. She did it herself. Now, I don't love the fact she blamed the partner, because I don't care who her partner is, her technology partner. They're working on her behalf. She should have held them accountable. They should have tested it. They should have practiced it hard and over until it was proven to be working correctly. Somebody failed. Somebody should lose their job, most likely, for the implementation of that system prematurely before it was ready, because it's awful. Then I talked to my insurance agent recently because I needed to change a policy, and it's an even worse experience for those agents. So not a great deal for that company. They're paying the price and have been for 6 months. So anyway, just further proof I'm right. Practice like you mean it, practice hard, and then the real thing will go a lot easier. So thanks for watching my channel. If you haven't, like and subscribe. I'll keep the content coming. Sorry I've been away so long. Thanks for viewing.